Okay, so third makeup catch-up video. She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith. Um, he was born in 1730, died in 1774. Irish writer. Um, Besides, I wouldn't say. I mean, recruiting officer was 18th century, but is it a good grasp of the 18th century when it's so early in the Restoration? I mean, so early in the 18th century, 1706. I wouldn't say so. So, it's a late. I mean, that was a late Restoration drama. And early 18th century, but She Stoops to Conquer and The School for Scandal are better views on the era. Of the 18th century. Although first performed in 1773, this play is still performed. And although he was an Irish writer, it was performed in England. It's what is known as comedy of manners, or although it could be argued as satire, romantic comedy, farce, sentimental comedy, any of the above. It has a lot. It's definitely whatever it is, a comedy. But in this play, the wealthy countryman, Mr. Hardcastle, arranges for his daughter Kate to meet Charles Marlowe, who's the son of a wealthy Londoner, hoping the two will marry. Unfortunately, Marlowe is nervous around upper-class women, yet the complete opposite around lower-class women, and I find that to be really interesting, and for a character of high stature to be intimidated by people of his own class, and feeling more comfortable around the lower class, that I find that character, I mean, as a character, I find Charles Marlowe to be extraordinarily interesting. Anyway, on his first acquaintance with Kate, Kate realizes that she'll have to pretend to be common, or Marlowe will not, be with her. So, she poses as a maid, hoping that Marlowe will, at his ease, fall in love with her. So Marlowe sets out for Hardcastle's Manor with a friend, George Hastings, an admirer of Miss Constance Neville, who's another young lady who lives with the Hardcastles, and during the journey, the men become lost and they stop at an alehouse, the Three Pigeons, and ask for directions. There, Tony Lumpkins, Kate's half-brother and cousin Constance, comes across the two strangers at the alehouse, and realizing their identity, plays a practical joke by telling them they're a long way from their destination and will have to stay overnight at an inn. The inn he directs them to is in fact the home of the Hardcastles, and when they arrive, the Hardcastles who've been expecting them go out of their way to make them welcome. However, Marlowe and Hastings, believing themselves being in and not knowing that the Hardcastles behave really badly towards the hosts, and the Hardcastles bear these insults and stuff because of the friendship with their father. So anyway, and the father's name, sorry, to mention his name is also Charles Marlowe, but he's Sir Charles Marlowe. So, anyway, Kate learns of her secret of shyness from Constance, and the servant tells her about Tony's trick, and she decides to masquerade herself as a serving maid and she changes her accent and all that stuff to get to know him. And Marlowe falls in love with her and plans to elope her, but she appears as lower class and acts in a body manner around her, and all misunderstandings are resolved at the end thanks to appearance by Sir Charles Marlowe. The main subplot of this is the secret romance between Constance and Hastings. So Constance needs her jewels and inheritance that are guarded by Tony's mother, Mrs. Hardcastle. The latter wants Constance to marry her son to keep the jewels in the family. And Tony despises the thought of marrying Constance. He prefers a barmaid at the alehouse, so he agrees to steal jewels from his mother's safekeeping from Mrs. Neville, so then he will flee to France with Hastings, so that she will leave. Sorry. And again, the play concludes with Kate's plan succeeding, thus she and Marlowe become engaged. Tony discovers that he's of age despite his mother not telling him so, thus he receives the money that he's entitled to, and he refuses to marry Constance, who then is eligible to receive her jewels and to become engaged to Hastings, which she does. So the central main character of this is Charles Marlowe, again, a character who's uncomfortable with his class. George Hastings, who is an admirer of Constance Neville, an educated character, Tony Lumpkin, mischievous, uneducated playboy, who's probably I'd say the most interesting character in this play. Hardcastle, who's mistaken as an innkeeper. Mrs. Hardcastle, who's quite eccentric and overprotective of Tony. Overbearing mother, pretty much. Kate, the heroine of the play. Constance, the woman who Hastings intends to court. And then there's, yeah, that's basically it. So, major themes of this play, we do have class and how characters act, how the Hardcastles are brought down as innkeepers, and they have to do that to maintain an image towards Sir Charles Marlowe. And along class goes money. Again, disguise as something comes up, and behavior and appearance, and contradiction, moderation, trickery. All this is this trickery and all these kind of things. This is all characteristic of comedy of manners. I would say it's a funny play. It can be suited for modern audiences. It's a little boring and difficult to read. I got more out of it than The Recruiting Officer. These two plays I didn't get as much out of as I did previous plays, with the exception of Satire of Three States and the York Cycle mystery plays. And yeah, so that's all I have for this play, and I just have one more video to catch up on, so yay.